You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, people-centric leaders. So let's see. The topic for today's podcast is, Diana, go ahead. What's the topic for today's podcast?
What? I don't know. Why
Diana,
do you know?
aren't you supposed to come up with the topics for the podcast? Don't you schedule these?
I don't schedule these. I don't do anything with
I,
is this my job?
I
Are
guess,
you?
well, Ashley schedules them, but I mean, don't you come up with the topics or do I come up with the topics?
Well, I thought that it was you. I mean, you open up the stories every time. I thought you came up with the
Well, not
topic.
every time. I'm not on every podcast. Sometimes I'm not on the podcast. So what happens when I'm not on the podcast? How does that?
Well, we figured out without you.
I just thought that you would come up with the topic. Well, then okay. All right.
I didn't know that
Well,
was your expectation. I'm sorry. I didn't know that was.
okay. Well, Stephanie's
Well,
here.
yeah. Hey, just to jump in, are we doing a podcast today? Who's
Yeah,
doing that now?
I think you're in charge of the topic. Did you bring a topic, Stephanie?
Oh, I could come up with something if that's what you want me to do.
We could make up something. Okay. We'll just make it up. We'll
Um,
just make it up as we go along then here. Okay. And scene. All right. So if you're listening, and you're like, what the heck? Did they record this? Did they not know that they were supposed to edit it? No, we were doing a bit. We were doing a bit for you. And what you just heard was something that we hear quite a bit. It was a team out of sync. Like we're just not quite synced up. Like, hey, we need to do this thing. Hey, are you doing this thing? What are you doing? I thought you were supposed to do this. I thought I was supposed to do this. What are the expectations? Hey, I'm working really hard and you're working really hard, but it just seems like the work is not really syncing up together. So that's actually the topic we want to talk about today is how to sync up your work. And this is going to apply if you're a manager and maybe you have somebody on your team that's not quite synced up. It can apply to you as an employee if you're not synced up with your boss. Like maybe you feel like you're doing really good work and you're working hard, but your boss just isn't recognizing it or isn't seeing that great work that's being done. Or maybe even a little bit as a team. How does the team get synced up and so that everybody's work is working together? So that's the topic for today. Diana, that was great acting. I felt your
Thank
tension.
you. Thank you. I honestly wanted to defend myself a little bit and be like, well, I've been doing all of these other things. Why do I have to do this thing too? I
Yeah.
wanted to defend myself.
I could see it. You could see it in your face. If you're watching us on the YouTube version of it, you could see the anguish in your face. So you did a nice job of
I
acting.
really don't like it when I don't meet the expectation. It really bothers
I
me,
know
even if we're pretending.
even a fake expectation, even a
A
fake
fake
one.
expectation, not
I
a
like that.
fan.
I like that. And we've also got Stephanie on today, and Stephanie jumped in as the third party of jumping, like, what's going on? What am I doing? Hey, I came in chaotically.
yeah, like I think we do this here. Who does that? Are we supposed to be doing that? I just wanted to check.
Whose job is it to do this thing, right? And how many times have we heard a boss say that, like the manager of the team say, like, who does this? Who does
Mhm.
this thing? How do we do this? So, all right. Well, let's jump in here on the topic and let's get started. Maybe we can start with some stories or share a little bit about some examples of maybe where an employee gets a little bit out of sync with what a manager expects from them.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this exercise that we do sometimes with managers and employees where we write down like, manager, what do you think your employee is doing? And employee, what are you doing? And when we show those two things, very rarely are they the same, right? Like the manager thinks they're doing one thing, the employee is doing another thing, and that's where some of that like misalignment comes from. And it's always a shock to both parties. They're kind of like, oh, I didn't know you were doing all of that, and the employee is like, I didn't know you wanted me to be doing that. Like, and it's a really revealing practice.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just kind of knowing what is it that you're supposed to be doing seems like that's an opportunity there. It's really funny because when we ask employees, do you know what your job is? Most of them say, yeah, I absolutely know what my job is. And then when we ask managers, do your employees know what their job is? Most of them say, yeah, I know exactly what my employees' jobs are. But when you put them together and you say, tell me what your job is, tell me what you think their job is, and they do that together and you have the reveal party, that are often very, very different. I know we just worked with a company. I'm going to code this a little bit so to protect the company, but they were missing a key metric. They're missing a key metric for people that are on the floor doing their work, and they're missing a key metric on it. And one of the questions we asked was, do your people know that they're missing that metric? And do they know what to do to adjust for it? And the answer was, well, we think they do. We think they know. I think they know. And it's like, well, what do they do? So what adjustments have they made when they miss their metric? And it's like, oh, well, we don't see an adjustment from the team. Oh, okay. Well, do you know that they're getting that metric back? Right. So maybe the first piece of advice is or do we have similar expectations? How do we set those expectations?
I mean, a very simple way is a job description, and everybody on your team should have one that clearly says, like, these are the things that we expect you to do. These are the responsibilities that you have. So even if you have a role that isn't super like metric or widget driven, there should be a really, really clear job description that says, hey, this is what the company needs from this role. This is what we expect you to do. These are the specific pieces of work we expect you to touch, the people we'd expect you to collaborate, maybe some specific goals or KPIs we'd expect you to hit. So I think, if you don't have those for your team, or if you haven't looked at somebody on your team's role description for a long time, that's a great place to start. And also, we have a lot of clients who do create like dashboards or scorecards or things like that we're talking about, where they can track a specific metric and they have a meeting cadence set around that metric to say, like, are we hitting the mark? Are we accomplishing the work? Are we putting enough into this on a regular basis to say we're going to achieve that goal?
Yeah, I like that. A lot of times job descriptions end up being kind of these weird unitaskers that HR departments set up when they go to hire an initial job, and then they end up in a filing cabinet someplace. But if you think about it, if a manager's jobs, one of their most basic jobs is to give feedback to an employee, what are you giving feedback based on, right? What are you giving feedback based on? What's the performance look like? And if you think about it, the job description is a great place for that. One thing I would just add to that is the job description can't be the 5-page and other duties as assigned job description. It can't be the super, super long. Here's all the different things that we do. I always challenge managers when you're creating a job description to really try to pare it down, like try to break it down to like, what does winning look like for that role? One way to do that is to think about, could you even create a job mission statement like for that job? Like if you are wildly successful at the end of the day, what is it that you do? Fundamentally, what is it that that job does? And if you have a real difficult time in doing that, the person's probably going to have a difficult time in doing the job because they have so many different expectations. So that might be out of alignment. Yeah. So where else does alignment get out of whack?
I think it's just natural in like day-to-day stuff, right? Managers aren't looking at the day-to-day. They're not looking at all the things that blow up in your face. They're kind of just managing things, right? They're most of the time they're not doing the work that you're doing. So they get out of sync with how long it takes someone to do something. They get out of sync with how many steps there are for a process. They get out of sync for how many other things get added to your plate. And I think it's just natural over the course of time for that stuff to kind of drift apart, right? When you start, you've got the job description, you're starting out, you're training, the manager's right there showing you what to do. And then as you're taking on more and doing more and figuring out more, it kind of drifts. And so I think it's really natural for overtime for it to just like slip. And we see that a lot of just like, oh, I didn't know you were doing this for all of these people. I didn't know that we changed the software and now it takes you 30 minutes longer. I didn't know we added 6 steps to your process. And, I didn't know that we did those things. And I think they lose touch a little bit on just the nitty gritty day-to-day things that get done.
Yeah. So how do you prevent that drift from happening as a manager? Like, how do you prevent that how do you keep that in front of you so you don't say, hey, why aren't we filling out our TPS reports properly or something? And they probably, we don't use TPS reports anymore. We haven't used those for years. What's that look like?
Also, I love the TPS reports. Sorry, my brain is stuck on that joke. That was a good one. I think people don't always like this answer, but like you should be meeting regularly to talk about like, are we on track? Like, are we on track to achieve our goals? Are we focused on the right things? And I think a lot of people will start like a meeting, like you were saying, Dan, we start a meeting cadence with an employee or when somebody comes into a role, and those meetings feel really intentional and focused because we're still talking about training and how we're going to accomplish these things. But then over time, that meeting shifts into just like hey, I'm still doing my job report, which is an awful meeting. Like I was talking with someone the other day and they're like, yeah, I can't go to that meeting anymore. Like that's what this meeting has become in our company and I can't go. Like I just mentally can't handle being at the meeting and having to every single week say I'm still doing my job. But I think you should have meetings where there's like a really clear, specific agenda, maybe where you open that scorecard or the dashboard, the Trello planner board, whatever, and you say, okay, like let's give updates on these specific things. And it's clear like what each person's role is in that. So I know like, hey, Diana, like this is what I need from you this week to accomplish this task. And team, what do you need from me to accomplish that task? And you can actually have those tactical conversations around something versus just like, hey, Diana, here's what I did last week. Sound cool?
Yeah, I like that. And you referenced Trello, or we use other tools like within Teams, like called Planner, things like that. They're kind of living scoreboards or living agendas that you can keep in front of everybody, so that you know what things you're discussing, going back and forth. So you're not just saying, "Here's all the things that are on my mind." Yeah, it reminds me, those meetings that you have with people. It reminds me how important it is to make sure you're bringing up things that you can collaborate on. It reminds me, when I was a project engineer at 3M, we used to have these meetings where we would have to meet with each of the department heads, and we were doing projects for all the different department heads. Well, overall, I'd get like 100 projects assigned to me, and I'm not doing 100 projects. I'm really working on like 5 to 10, right? In reality. So I would have to sit in front of a manager and go, okay, what's going on with that project? Well, that project's making really good progress, and here's what we're doing. What's going on with that project? Nothing. 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 And it was horrible. And we would sit in every meeting and just be like, this is the day where I get beat up because we're not working on enough stuff. Like, well, why aren't you working on that? Why aren't you working on that? Why aren't you working on that? What we did to help to relieve that pressure was I talked to the department heads and I said, look, in those meetings, you're just pressing on us and we're pressing back. It's a fight. We're not collaborating together. We're just pushing back. The reality is we can't do all of these things all at once. What if we work together to help prioritize it, so that you told us which things are the most important instead of just telling us to work on all of the things at once? And the meetings turned into that, where we would talk and say, hey, we could work on this one, or I can work on this one. Which one's more useful to you right now? And they'd say, well, right now, actually, if you got that one done, then we did this one, that would be super helpful. And then these are less important. And they helped us with that. And suddenly we were collaborating together and working together. And the meeting felt totally different. And suddenly we felt like we were being instantly more successful.
I love that. And both of the examples that you guys gave struck me that alignment doesn't happen one-sided. So a boss telling someone what to do or an employee telling their boss what they're doing, that's not alignment. That's not helping anything. But when you're both on the same page about what you need and what you're doing, that's when you get the true alignment. And it is that collaboration. It is the true conversation and all of those. It's connecting the 2 points. It's what do I need from you and what am I giving you? And those two things are how they connect. And I think it's really important to remember alignment does not happen one-sided.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think, we've been talking about this a little bit from the manager perspective, but we'll also hear this from employees pretty frequently where they're like, yeah, like I sit in these meetings where my boss, it feels like they're just asking me to give an update on my job and what I do, or my boss will come and ask me about something that I already did, or gosh, I've been doing that for a while already and you didn't know, or employees who are honestly kind of like doing work in a little bit secret or hiding it from their boss because like, I don't want them involved yet. And they usually will get involved at this point and then it slows down our work or messes up my progress. And I really don't need them to see this until this point. And so I like that you said that, Diana. It's both sides. It's not just the manager, saying, hey, team, here's what I want you to do. Here's what I need from you. But also the employees being like, yeah, like, here's the areas I feel really confident that I could like work on my own. And if you're cool with that, like, I can run that. And we don't need to talk about that all the time. And then here's the spaces where I do feel like I really need you as my manager, as a leader in the organization. And these are the parts that I would love to have you look your eyes on more and look at more. This is really what I need from you in that moment. And I think a lot of times employees feel uncomfortable saying that to their boss or a leader in the organization, because again, there's this myth around leaders that leaders know everything. And if they have a formal leadership title, or they're higher you in the organization, that they know more than you, they have more experience than you, they have all of the information in front of them. And then the reality is it's just that's not always true. And sometimes you as the employee have information that your boss or leader doesn't, that might help this process go better, but you've got to create that space to have the conversation about it. Otherwise, yeah, your leader's going to keep asking you things that to you feel frustrating or annoying because you're like, either we already did that, or I can't believe you didn't know that. You start feeling resentful toward your boss instead of collaborating.
Yeah, and the trick to all of that is if you're trying to regain alignment, whether you're the boss or the employee, and you just show up, it might be because you don't have the information. Maybe it's because you haven't talked, and maybe you're sharing information that the other person doesn't have, and that might create some of the alignment. But if you're still getting resistance, if you're sharing information, and I'm thinking back to my 3M days again, that a lot of times I would say, here's all the stuff I'm doing. Here's all the barriers that I'm hitting on these projects. Here's why I can't work on all these at the same time. What really changed the alignment piece was when I asked the other party, what do you need? What information do you have? What's important to you? And that opened up the relationship and everything. And that can happen from a manager talking to an employee. Tell me what you need as an employee to do your job. What do you need from me? What do you need from the rest of the team? That's a powerful question. Or if you're an employee, go to your boss. Tell me, what is it that you need from me? What can I do to do a better job for you? Not just in the work that I do. I don't need you to tell me, necessarily to micromanage everything that I'm doing, but tell me, if I did this, boy, it would really solve some headaches for you. I think that's a powerful question to broach, to be able to open up a relationship on the other side.
I totally agree. And it's sometimes hard for an employee to think about really what their boss's job actually is. And so I think it's a good challenge in that moment, if you feel out of sync with your boss or manager, leader, to actually think about what is their job? And maybe what are the goals or things they're trying to accomplish? Because I firmly believe, I think everybody wants to do a good job, right? I think there are very, very few people in the world who show up with just, I would love to destroy this company, and that's really my goal. I think most people really want to do a good job, and your boss is included in that. And so if you could even think for a second, what might be important to them that they might want to know. And the easiest way to know that, like you said, Dawn, is just to ask them of hey, what are the things when we have this meeting that you're hoping to walk away with? Could you tell me maybe two or three specific things that if you left this meeting and knew this, and this, man, that makes then what you need to go do easier after this, or helps you accomplish, or helps us accomplish the goal, because that can help you really narrow in then okay, well, what is the most important thing? What do we need to work on? Because I agree with you, Donna, in the story you were telling earlier about having to present on 100 things. I think often employees will do that too. The boss might ask for it because they aren't sure what the employee is doing. So I'm going to try to get as much as I can. And then the employee sometimes will over present what they're doing because they're not sure what the boss is really looking for. And I want to show that I'm bringing value to the organization. So I'm just going to give you everything. And then you essentially word vomit spreadsheets worth of information on someone else on the team. And they're like, well, that didn't really help me because I needed to know about these 3 accounts, not all 150 we could do.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me when I realized that at 3M, when I started saying, hey, what do you need? That made a big difference. So let's talk a little bit about alignment on a team, like if the team's working together and the team starts getting out of alignment, we kind of did that in our little bit that we did at the beginning where all of us were like, who's doing what? How do we do this? What's that look like? How do we re-achieve alignment within a team?
It's funny you said that because I kind of was thinking through and I was like, man, a lot of this works between coworkers too, right? Like if Stephanie and I were not synced up on something, a lot of the same principles work. I could go to Stephanie and say, what do you need from me that would be really helpful? How can I help you? And then here's what I'm doing. Is there any way you can help me? And I think just having the how can I help you conversation opens up so many doors because then it's not competing interests, then it's collaborating interests, then it's working together, right? It's not this, I have my job, you have your job, we're gonna butt heads sometimes. It's we can all do it all together and we can figure it out together and we can help each other. And I liked that concept. The other thing that I think you guys both touched on that I want to make sure is super clear is the intentional agenda. You guys have both said like there should be, what do you need to get out of this meeting and what do you need to get out of this meeting? And then if you're going to have a standing meeting, that agenda needs to be really intentional and purposeful and done over and over again. And then when it stops working, redo the agenda, right? Like change it up. So I think that just like intentional space, intentional time, and intentional tools are really important to remember for all of this.
Yeah, I like how you framed that, Diana, and like asking like what can I help you with? Because I think sometimes when like a team comes together like we were playing at in the beginning and everyone's like, "Well, I don't know whose job that is." And then sometimes the question I'll hear get asked in the room, "Well, who would like to take that?" And then it's crickets because everybody then just starts thinking about their own job and the things that they're already doing. And they're like, well, that doesn't really feel like my job. And then what I'll notice will happen often is then it's just usually the person who maybe like struggles with a little the people pleasing or is like really trying to like be in the boss's good graces that'll be like, well, I can like I can take that, or it's the person who really really wants to help but maybe shouldn't be taking on additional tasks because they're already helping with like 25 other things that are taking their time and attention. And so it often, like when somebody just asks the question, like, who wants to take this? It almost, I don't want to say almost never, but it often does not quite land in the right place. So I like how you asked that instead of like, how could we help? Who can help on this? And how could we all work together to accomplish that or break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces? And also, yes, 100% to the agenda. Like a great meeting should have a really clear agenda of this is what we're coming to discuss. And it's funny how we get stuck in those patterns of just like having the meeting because we've had the meeting and keeping with the agenda because that's the agenda, even when that meeting doesn't serve us well anymore. And so just remember, like, we're all adults here and you probably made up that meeting or somebody made up that meeting once and you could change it or you could kill it and undo it and make it actually work for you and the team so you can truly collaborate and we're not just round robining in a meeting to talk about things that really like Diana might not be able to do anything with what I brought, but I'm giving my update to make sure everybody knows I'm working really hard here.
Yeah, there's some responsibility on the manager to not round robin everything. I think that's frustrating for a team to just go to everybody and say, well, I think some people as managers can be overly collaborative, which sounds weird being people centric and saying we're being overly collaborative. But if you go to the whole team and who wants to do this, you're right. The people pleasers will raise their hand or the same people will do it. I think sometimes you got to challenge people a little bit, which means you have to know your people. You have to know what they can do and you have to talk to them on a regular basis. So again, like what we're talking about here is a systematic approach to building alignment on your team to being in sync, which means you're having regular meetings with your people. You're understanding what your people can do. So there's an old saying that great managers play chess, and we talk about that quite a bit. And the difference between like chess or checkers or other games is that in chess, each of the pieces do a different thing. So in management, you have to understand what your pieces can do. So then if I'm bringing up, hey, we've got our project, Diana, would you be willing to help us in this, and this? What does that look like? And da, da, da. And then, yeah, Diana, yeah, I can absolutely help you in that. Stephanie, could you help us in this space? And da, da, da. I don't have to say, go do this exactly for each of you. I can say, like, here's the outcome we're trying to achieve. Would you be willing to help? Is it a space you can help us in? And then now you can you're still being collaborative, you're still being engaging, and we're still staying in sync, but we're focused on the outcome, right? I think that's a big piece of this is what's the successful outcome? What does winning look like at the end of the day? I agree with you 100%, Stephanie, with what you said earlier. I think most people, they want to win at the end of the day. You spend a lot of time at work, you might as well win while you're there, right? So what does winning look like? And defining that and being really clear about that is really, really important. And then collecting information from each other, both your coworkers, your manager, your employees, everybody, on what do you need to win, or what can you do to win, or what can I do to help you win, or what can you do to help me win, is really, really, really important. So that's a lot of times as managers, I think the failure in this misalignment, when we see this out of syncness that occurs within teams, a lot of times it's a symptom of a bigger problem, and the bigger problem is the managers aren't meeting with their employees on a regular basis. They're not having regular conversations. They're not talking about, what do you need from me? What do I need from you? This is the things. They're not having those conversations. So then they're out of sync, just on a basic level. So, all right, final takeaways for the group here on staying in sync. Are we in sync? Are we back in sync?
I mean, I still don't know who picks the topics.
Yeah, we do kind of do that together.
Oh,
That
no.
is that is funny.
It's the royal
It's
we.
a collaboration.
Yeah.
Collaboration.
Everything is collaboration. Yeah.
But no, we're in sync on it. We know what's expected and who's doing what.
That's true.
We know who's doing what. Yeah.
You do.
And if not, it's worth the investment to figure out how to get in sync, because that's a lot of wasted resources and a lot of time and a lot of energy goes into work. And we've worked with lots of employees who spend a lot of time and effort on things that just aren't important and aren't really impacting the company. And the employees are really proud of their work. And they go to their boss and say, look at this thing I did. And the boss is like, good for you. I'll stick it right up here on the fridge. Why did you work on that? I don't know why you did that.
That has literally happened to me before. So
Yeah.
That has happened to, I think, everybody on this call, and probably most people who have listened to this. So if you're a manager, don't let that happen to your people. Be very clear about what winning looks like. What do you need? Not and put it out there, and then what do your people need? And be clear back and forth so that you can stay in sync with what you need. That alignment and empowerment is what makes people centric work. So,
and I think another key thing to remember here is that building that alignment is also building trust. So everyone talks about how trust is integral to a relationship, to work, to all of these human interactions. And as you are building this alignment, you're building trust. And I think that's so cool to watch happen in the moment.
well said. Well said. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. We hope we were in sync with you on this call. And if you want to get even more in sync with us, shoot us some ideas. We'll always love to hear the topics, because who comes up with the topics? Sometimes you all come up with the topics. Sometimes we take topics that you bring to us. So make sure you shoot us a note and say hi, and that you enjoyed the podcast. Smash the like button there below so that we make sure you share it with your friends, and that you enjoy the People Centric Podcast. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.